Hello folks, let me take a seat so I can get everything in the picture. Slightly off frame there, but if you just look above me here, what we have is a torch, and this is just actually suspended from the light fitting. So just got the light in the centre of the room, and then what I've got, if I just show you, is, there we go, we have the torch. If I just go up, and it's just hanging just by a piece of cord, which is actually a lace, and then you've got the light. It's just hanging from the light fitting, and it's just hanging down. So what we're going to do today is we're going to be doing spirograph drawings. Now, what I've just done on the torch is I've just, hang on, just tilt this up a little bit. There we go. There we are. That's it. So what we've done on the torch is I've just put a piece of silver foil on the front, and that is actually a mince pie kind of thing. So that was made a good thing, and I've made a little hole in the front of it, and I just made that in there with a skewer. It must be quite small, perhaps a couple of millimeters across. If it's a big one, that's, you know, don't go too big, otherwise your lines will be too fat. And then it just sort of, you know, it's just held on there by sort of friction. So that, you need to make that little hole. The reason you want to use something like silver foil, obviously, is because it's not going to let any light through. If you use paper or something like that, it's going to let some light through. So if I just let that dangle. Now, the other thing I would recommend is if you can get it to hang. So what I've actually just done is I've just put a piece of thread sort of either side so that it hangs down centrally. This has actually got a lanyard on it, and what that tends to do is it tends to be on one side, and then when you spin it, it tends to wobble. So if you can get it so that it's kind of equidistant, then you'll find it sort of it stays more level. Okay, now this torch is quite good because I've got lots of different sort of things on here. So I've got constant beam, I've got different powers, I've also got it so it flashes, so it does SOS, and also it just flashes on and off really quickly like lightning, and so you've got different powers in there. So I'm going to keep it on kind of 3/4 power for me. Obviously this depends how powerful your torch is, you know, and we just might need to just tweak your settings a bit just to get the best thing. Now the next thing, of course, we've got this hanging down flat, so the next thing to do is we need to put our camera. So if I just tilt this down again now, there we go, so you can see the top of the torch, and we've got the camera on the floor. Okay, so this is around about 4 foot. So if you just kind of measure that, if I just measure that, it's about 4 foot, and that's about right. If it's too high up, then your circles will be too big, and you'll probably go out of the frame of the camera. If it's too low down, again, you get a better swing actually. If it's too low down, then it'll either be a very small circle, or it could even go out the frames again, because, you know, because it is closer and everything's smaller. So as far as my camera settings go, I've got my remote trigger, and I'm using the wireless trigger, but obviously you could use whatever you want. You could actually press the button if you wanted to. And my settings are, I'm at 100 ISO, and I'm at an aperture of f/16 and a shutter speed of 30 seconds. Now you do need to do this in complete darkness. I'm going to show you, but it will be completely dark when I do it. Okay, so you need to do this in complete darkness for this to work. So you're obviously on manual exposure. So manual exposure, 30 seconds, f/16, 100 ISO. You might need to tweak those a bit depending on how bright your torch is. If it's really bright, then you might need to use f/22. If it's a bit duller, then you probably get away with maybe f/11 or something like that. Or you can turn your ISO up to 200 or 400. Okay, so I've got the torch on here, it's actually lit. Now, you can just use white light if you wish. So if I just take this out, all I've actually done is in the center here, I've got a piece, this is just an offcut of a carry bag in actual fact. There you go, it's just an offcut of a carry bag. And I can pop that in there and I can get a red light. But if you want a white light, that's absolutely fine. If I just put that in my pocket for now so I don't lose it, I'll pop this back on again and I'll shoot it with a white light. You see, it's just a friction fit there. Okay, so we've got the settings, we've got it hanging, it's centrally set up. The next thing we need to do is we need to place our camera, and we need focus. Well, the good news is placing the camera is actually really easy, because if I just tilt down a little bit more, you'll see that I have a bright patch on the carpet. So basically the camera is going to go in that position. But of course, what we also need to do is we need to focus. Now, we can't really focus from here to here because the chances of us getting it focus on the right thing is going to be quite tricky. It'll probably focus on the ceiling. So the way to focus, very simply, is put something in the spot, go to the height of the torch, yeah, making sure that you're on autofocus, and just focus on the item on the floor. And then go to manual focus. Because obviously the distance from here to there is exactly the same as the distance from there to here. So we've got that bit sorted. Now, the next thing you need to think about is the angle that you are going to be sending the swing out at. There we go, let's get a bit of the torch in. Yeah, so you need to be thinking about the angle you're going to be sending the torch out, the swing out at, because you want to have your camera, if you're either going to go this way or you're going to go this way. So I'm going to go lengthwise, and you want to use a wide angle lens for this. So my lens is the 18mm. I focus and I've got to manual focus. Oh, and another little tip, you can just save reflections. Just take off your filter. If you've got a filter on there, sometimes you get like a double image. So if you've got a filter on, just take your filter off for this exercise. Okay, so that is in my hotspot. There we go. And I've got my cable release on there. I'm just using a wireless release, but obviously you can use a cable release. If it came to it, you're not really going to move it. You could just sort of press the shutter there, but just remember to get out of the way because you don't want your head in the picture. So I'll run through it first of all with the lights on, and then I'll switch the lights off and we'll have a go with the lights off. So making sure I'm well out of the way. And what we'll do is you give it a swing. Obviously this is not going to work. Now what I would do also is when you swing it, just let it go for a couple of revolutions because it tends to have a wobble on first thing. So if you just let it go for a couple of revolutions, there you go, and then you click it. Now, obviously this is not going to work here because I've got the room lights on, but this is for demonstration purposes. And what I'll do in a second is I'll do a shot with the lights off. Not quite sure how well the camera will handle that. It seems quite a long time. Obviously you can do it for 15, 20 seconds if you want to. The longer the exposure, then the more lines you will get, though it might be brighter. This one is obviously not going to work because the room lights are on. Good. So let me try that then with the room lights off so you can see what happens. So I'll get it spinning. There you go, got a good spin going. Room lights are off. Fire the shutter. If I tip it a little bit, you'll see the spirograph thing happening. You see as it sort of slows down, it starts getting nearer and nearer the centre, which is good because that gives you quite a nice effect. Good. Brilliant. There we go then. So let me pop this back up and I'll pop the lights back. You can switch that off if you want. Now, what I recommend you do to save you getting set up again to look at your results, let's tilt this down a fraction more for you. There we go. What I recommend you do to look at your results is to not necessarily pick the camera up, just push the camera forward so it stays on the same axis. The benefit of that, might even change this 20 seconds now. The benefit of that is all you need to do is just drop it back and you're in exactly the same plane. So if I just have a quick look at that, and that's actually pretty good. Yeah, I say I'll pop that up on screen and now what I'll do is we'll try it with the red. Okay, so all I'm going to do is I'm just going to rock the camera back. There we are. That's it. And I will pop in this off and I will pop my little bit of red in. There we go. So here's a little bit of red. Just making sure it covers the whole, of course. There we go. And we'll have another go. So here we go then, this is lights out. In fact, I'll get it swinging first, I think. Here we go, bit of a swing. That looks like a good one. Lights off. press the button, and you can see there, firing away. That red light that you can see, by the way, is the red light from the timer. Okay, looks like we've gone. Switch the lights back on, and I'll again do the same thing. I'll just lean it forward and have a quick look. And that, oh, that looks good. That looks great. That's really good. That is excellent. Good. I'll post that up on screen as well. Now, the other thing that we can do, which is kind of cool. Oh, by the way, once you put that filter in, there's always a possibility that you might need to increase your aperture slightly or your ISO slightly, because there you go. You might need to increase your ISO aperture because obviously that will stop a little bit of light. And that red filter was just from a piece of a plastic carry bag, but anything you've got handy will do the job. Now, the other thing that you can do, there we go. So the other thing that you can do with this is this torch in itself actually has SOS on it, and it also has sort of lightning on it. So if I put it to its lightning setting first of all, there we go. So now what's actually happening, it's actually flashing. And so this time we'll get a completely different look. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just tilt you down again so you can see what's going on. I'll set it running. Again, just making sure it stays nice and central. And move that out of the way to put it on the shot. There we go. That looks good. Fire it off. Okay. And lights back on. Just let the camera focus again. There we go. And I'll have a quick peek of that. So again, just rock it forward, quick peek. Oh, that's cool. That is so cool. Great stuff. Right. And then finally, this also has an SOS setting. So I'll just pop it on that. Obviously, that's going to give you long and short dashes. And then we'll try that one. And then we'll have a look at the stuff and see exactly what we've got. So get it swinging. Get the old swing going. There we go. So a bit of a swing. Looks pretty good. Lights off. Press the button. That's actually nice circular movement. And obviously SOS ... dash 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 ... And you can also obviously put different colours in here, and you could overlay them. You could actually, if you wanted to, do sort of one long exposure with different colours, but the easiest thing is to blend them in Photoshop and mess around in Lightroom. Yeah, that's neat as well. So sort of jaggedy lines, that's kind of cool. And there we go, guys. That is how to do kind of spirographs with your torch. So hang it from a central object. Make sure that you get your sort of torch nice and level, not lean off to one side, otherwise it will wobble. Settings, I'm actually at 20 seconds now, f16, 100 ISO, but obviously if your pictures are too dark, then you can go to 200 ISO or 400 ISO. If your pictures are too bright, you'll have to go down to f22, or if you can, turn the power of your torch down. And then, as I said, try it with different coloured pieces of plastic in there. If you've got any sort of quality street wrappers, pop those in there. You can have multicolours. But what I'll do as well is I'll show you how to turn any colour into any other colour in Lightroom. And there we go, guys. Have fun with that. Hello, folks. So here we are on the second part, the editing part of our Spirograph sort of light painting. And I've just gone through the pictures, loaded them into Lightroom in the normal way. And I've just flagged sort of my favorite ones here. A couple of quite similar, actually. So let's have a quick look. So this first one is obviously with the white light. This was before we put the filter in, and it looks kind of cool. I might just nip in and give it a little bit of a crop, just
to balance it up. Now, even though I'm in the library module, the shortcut for the crop tool, if you think of it as reframe or recompose, is the letter R. And if I press the letter R, then it's going to drop into the develop module for me, and I can just nip in there and crop that. Now, I can leave this as white if I wish. That's not a problem. Or if I come up to my color temperature, my white balance, and swing it to the left, I'll get blue. If I swing it to the right, I'll get yellow. And likewise, I can have green or I can have purple. But I've already got lots of purple ones, so I won't bother with that. So let's, I'll tell you what, I quite like a green one. Let's have a green one. Now, it'd be quite nice if this background was black. So I just want to make sure it's black. And the way to do that is to press the letter J on the keyboard. So there you go, letter J on the keyboard. And now if this was black, this would show up as blue, which it doesn't. So I'm just going to move the black slider back. There we go. And maybe even the shadows back a bit. And now I've got a totally black background. That's brilliant. Okay. And if I just press J again, that gets rid of that. Right, let's give that a number 2 for rated, and let's just go on to the next shot. Again, this framing slightly out, so let's just hit R, recompose that very quickly. Good. And let's have a look. I think we might just bring those highlights down a bit. Oh, not too much. How about a bit of clarity? I don't think we nearly need to do much to this one. Might just leave that one as it is. There we go. Give that a 2. This one's a little bit brighter, again slightly off center, so just recompose. And obviously slightly bright. Let's have a look. Let's have a play with dehaze on this one. Yeah, dehaze works. You see if it darkens it down. Just bring the blacks down again. Just switch that J on. There we go. You can always use shadow sliders and the black sliders together if you want to. Okay, J off, and bring the highlights down a bit because it's a little bit bright. There we go. That's brilliant. Don't let your whites go muddy. That will just look horrible. There we are. And if we want something different, let's mess around a bit. Here we come down to the vibrance, and we can push that up a little bit if we want to. And again, we can always tweak these colors with the white balance slider. That's pretty cool. Okay, we'll go with that. So let's press 2. Okay, let's tell you what, this one here, let's just hit previous and do the same. There we go, that worked quite nicely. Okay, let's just try a little bit of a different crop. We'll rotate a bit. And how about, let's have a look. How about something like that? That's kind of cool. Good, let's just bring those highlights down. That's good, I'll do it for that one. Number 2. Again, I think I can probably do the same. It's gone a bit dark. If that happens, just hit Control Z and we'll edit it individually. So again, just going to sort of crop these down. That's cool. And I tell you what, let's change the, let's bring the exposure up a touch, bring the blacks down, and we'll just add a little bit of saturation. That's quite nice. Good, I like that one. Okay. Tell you what, let's change the color on this one. Let's go more orange, shall we, for a change? How's that? Excellent. Give that a 2. I'll do the same with that one. Just recrop slightly. I quite like that angle on that one actually. So let's just emphasize that angle, shall we? Go from one side to the other. Excellent. 2. Okay, so this one here that's obviously been affected by some light from somewhere. You can see I've actually got me here. This is obviously where I leant over the camera, and it's not a black background. So we've obviously got some lighting from somewhere. So let's just bring the highlights down a bit. And I'm just going to play with the dehaze on this one. Let's have a quick play with dehaze. Ah, that's interesting. That's gone kind of cool. Let's just bring those highlights back a little bit more. And maybe bring the exposure down. That's really starting to look quite neat. I like that. And if we go to that side, what happens with the green? No, I think we'll keep the, oh, that's interesting. If we go to the right with the tint, we get some really cool things going on there. Okay, Good thing with this is just go and have a bit of a play. There's no right or wrong, just go and have a bit of a play. If you want to, you can even put a bit of a vignette in there if you wanted to. So we go down to the effects, click on the effects, and we can just throw a little bit of a vignette in there, just darken those corners down a bit, and that's quite nice. There we go. Give that a 2. Next one, it's similar, same sort of exposure, so obviously affected by the same light. So let's hit previous and do a bit of a crop. That's it, lovely. There we go. The highlights have just gone a little bit bright, so I'll bring those highlights down. Maybe had a little bit of clarity. Tell you what might be interesting in this is you see it's kind of bright in the center. Let's go and do something with that center bit. So let's click on the radial gradient and let's do a gradient there in the center. And how about, what are we going to get with this? So we can just try the color balance sliders, or we can come down to this new slider, the new hue and saturation slider, and let's see what if we move that. Oh, that's kind of neat. Look at that. That's kind of cool. And we get luminous green on that one. And then we can just make it a little bit bigger. And I think that works quite nicely. There you go, trying something a bit different. So I'll give that a 2 as well. And I think I might even hit a previous for that one. Do the same sort of thing. It's got a little bit dark. Just bring the highlights back up. Bit of a reframe. And that'll do for that. Yep, give that a 2. And we're whizzing through these. What shall we do with this one? Okay, let's do something different. Let's just crop it slightly. Let's try the gradient tool. So if we just come into the gradient tool, we can start at the top, about here, pull down to the bottom, and we can change the colors. So if we try the hue slider, there you go. Now it's green at the top and purple at the bottom. And the closer these lines are together, the tighter that transition. I think I might also just bring those highlights down a little bit, just to saturate those colors, and maybe even add a little bit of saturation. There you go. That's kind of neat. I'll tell you what we might do with this. Let's flip it on its side. So we want to rotate it, and the quick and easy way to rotate is to hold down the Control key, that's the Command key on a Mac, and press the right square bracket key. There you go. How's that? Give that a 2. That one I quite like as it is. So I think what I like about this one, because it's quite circular, I think we might give that a crop. So the letter R for crop. But I think we might go to a 1:1 ratio. So if I just go to 1:1 and click on done. Brilliant. Maybe add a little bit of clarity to make it pop. How about a tiny bit of saturation? There we go. Give that a 2. And we're on the home straight. I think that's quite similar to one of the others, really. So I think I might just bring the highlights down a bit on this one. Again, just make it a little bit tighter. There we go. I think that'll do nicely. Perhaps a little bit of clarity just to make it look super sharp. And maybe even bring those blacks down again. Great stuff. And then the final one, I think what we might just do there is hit previous again. And that works pretty well. And why don't we just change the color, and we'll go for a nice orange. I move into the yellows and just bring those highlights down. They're still a little bit hot. And I think that is not bad. In fact, this is kind of interesting. If you bring the clarity down as well, it just softens that down, gives it a bit of a sort of glow. Likewise with the texture. If we bring the dehaze, oh, that's interesting. If you bring the dehaze down, it almost makes it look like kind of sort of LED lights outside, or the fluorescent lights outside. This has gone a bit bright though. So let's just go, and I tell you what we'll do, we'll put a radial in there. So just get the radial, zero everything off, draw a circle about the size of the light painting, and we'll just bring the exposure down. And you can see here it's making the center of the picture darker. Obviously we don't want that, we want the opposite. So you need to come down here where it says invert, click on invert, and now we can darken down the outside. Maybe even bring the blacks down. Good, and I think now we've done that, we can click on done, and I think we could actually probably make that center core a little bit brighter. That's kind of nice. That gets a really nice glow about it. So there you go. So that didn't take long, and we looked at a few different techniques there using gradients and radial fills and the new hue sliders and all sorts of things. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll have another little project for you shortly. Have a good Christmas, and I'll see you all again soon. All the best. Bye.